Before we dive into experimenting and playing with our Gelli plate and going over some basics of how to use it and the kind of amazing things that you can do with it, I just want to share with you how I've made my custom colors. So I'm going to be primarily using a bunch of these bottles that you're going to be seeing, and they're all full of fluid acrylic paint and high flow acrylic paint from Golden, and I've been mixing and making my own colors. And so I just want to walk you through the steps of how I do that, so that way if you too want to create your ready-made colors, you have an understanding of how you can go about doing it for yourself. Now, my reasoning behind this is that when I was first starting to use the Gelli plate, I got tired of mixing my colors every time I wanted to use them, because, you know, it's time consuming to mix your colors, get it out, scoop it out, roll it out. So pre-made in the bottle is the key to getting it done right. Now what I want to do for this color is kind of go along the lines of this purple, only I want to make it a lot more grittier, darker. So what I'm going to do is follow the recipe that I created for these two, but add a little bit of a twist to it. So the first piece of advice I have from what I've learned doing all of this is that when it comes to this bottle in particular, you can't really probably see it on camera, but when you're shaking the colors, there's holes here for the, you know, paint to come out when you squirt it out, or the ketchup, I don't know. But it would actually make the first round of colors. So say for example, white or any of the blues or anything like that, like it would go up to the front here and it would stay there, and then I would have to take it apart, clean it out, and then that would allow it so that the true color could come out. You can kind of see it here with this pink one here, where it's just more white up here, because the white stayed up there when I was originally mixing it and creating. So I've come up with a system. I made one of these and I took one off of a bottle. So I have a spare bottle with no lid. I shoved paper towel up into the center, and every time I want to mix a color, I just put it on here and I mix it. Obviously you want to wait in between because the colors will stick here in between different colors, but because it's had time to dry, it's safe to use right now. Also, getting little ball bearings like things like this, I got them off of Amazon. I searched for small stainless steel balls for paint mixing, and I got a box with like 200 of them in there, and I put 2 to 3 in the bottle, and it makes mixing less time consuming. Because when I first mixed these, oh, see, this one really shows the blue. It's right here. Anyways, when I first started mixing these colors, like when I was shaking for a good 5 minutes before I could actually get the accurate color to appear that I was mixing. So I ended up hitting up Amazon and just, you know, looking for those. So now I'm just winging it when it comes to this. You know, some things are going to be a success, some things aren't. Like with this color, I wanted to have a peachy coral color and it came out too strong. Down the road, I'm sure I'll just take this color, add more white to it, and, you know, make it a pastel color, but that's just not today. And this one, before I got to this darker, grayer blue, it, you know, took a couple of tries. So let's just do this, because I know you guys are actually here for the Gelli plate. So I'm just going to put my Titan buff in first. Gonna I don't know, roughly an inch worth of paint. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 of the quinacridone magenta. And I'm going to do less blue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I feel like I might have missed one. Did I count all the way to 10? And I'm also going to add some black. You know what I'm missing, guys? A pencil. Ugh. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I did roughly 1 inch buff. I did 20 magenta and 10 ultra blue. Now I'm going to do carbon black. Let's do 5 CB. One, two, three, 4, 5. Okay, and then I'm going to drop some of these balls in there. Gotta close that up so I don't drop them everywhere. And then I'm using this one because it's the one that's safe to mix. Oh, I got black on me. Just put it on my table. Ooh. Alrighty, so I've been mixing it for just a few seconds, and you can see that there's still some color on the outside, on the edging. Actually looks really cool. It's like a galaxy in there. Alrighty, the time has come. Let's swatch this color out and see what it looks like. It's actually a really nice color. And as you can see, it's not as bright and vibrant as this one is. And it's got that earthy, gritty tone that I was going for. So yay! I'm so glad it worked. All right, let's get into playing with our Gelli plates. In today's creative exploration, we are going to be experimenting with the Gelli plate and going over some basics that you need to know if you're interested in getting one, or if you have one and you just want to see some cool things. So first off, a Gelli plate is this really cool trending art tool that's I've seen like everywhere lately. And essentially it's just a squishy rubber plate, but you can use it to create texture sheets for scrapbooking. You can create kind of like a lino-like type prints with it, with doing different layering techniques and things. I do want to have one disclaimer though. It has an odor, and I don't know how to describe the smell it has other than saying it kind of reminds me of like a grandma. You know, it's got this like old perfumey smell to it. And I'm not too sure if it's just because of where I purchased it. It was in a facility that had an odor and it got absorbed into the plastic, or if it's just the actual plate itself. And they all smell like this. But yeah, there's an odor. If today's weather was a little bit better, I would have my window open, but it's not great out. Before I get started with experimenting with it, let's go over some supplies and things that you're going to want to have on hand. One is going to be a roller, so you can roll your paint and materials out onto it. Another is going to be paper towels or a towel itself. I have a bowl here set aside with warm water and 2 drops of dish soap in it. I saw in another artist video that they use baby wipes to clean it. I don't have baby wipes. So this is what I use to clean it. I also sometimes like to spritz it with water to get some texture from the materials that I use, but also to help me clean it. And then you're gonna need some paint, ink, things that you can put down here. I personally prefer to use the fluid paint from Golden. It has the perfect coverage for it that I've learned in my experimentations. I tested out using gouache and a few other paints that I had around the house that are already in my office, and I found that when I used my Titan pail, my green Titan pail, like, it was amazing. So I went out and I purchased a bunch for Christmas. I put them on my wish list, and I started to create my own mixes of colors so that I could create with it. Now, ink is also really cool. You can get some interesting textures with acrylic ink on here. Not all brands behave the same way as well. Some have great coverage depending on what kind of pigments are in here and what they're made with, where others kind of have this interesting way of like spreading on here. Another thing that I want to point out that you may be interested in doing as a side note, also I'm going to be using flowers in today's exploration. So I have these here. I'm just going to set them aside for a moment. So right here on to the side of me, I have some scrap craft paper that came in my Christmas box with all the supplies, and I have this so then that way I can easily clean this off. And I know it's not clean, it didn't get cleaned that well the last time I used it, so it's all green, but I've since learned that if you roll it out on here or on your surface that you're using to protect your desk, it helps clean it faster, so that way when you wipe it down, you have less paint on here. Plus, this then creates some cool crafting paper that you can use for any projects that you have. You don't need scissors for anything unless you're going to do what I'm doing with the florals. So let's just like dive into doing this. Just going to take a deep breath. Center myself now that I've gone over everything, and get my supplies. So I went to a local floral shop, and I just went in there and I was like, I have this Gelli plate. Ooh, this might come in handy and create something cool. Let's not throw that aside. Let's keep that here. And anyways, so I grabbed, thanks to one of the employees there. She was really helpful. She was like, well, this is really cool. You know, this might lay down really nice. And so I have some interesting things here that we are going to be playing with. I feel like my desk is just not big enough. I'm going to lay them out here. So I apologize in advance because I'm going to be doing a lot of reaching. But first up, oh my goodness, everyone, I'm sorry. I realized I didn't go over the paper, and it's because I have it sitting behind me on the chair. It was so during my first round of exploring, I was finding that this paper right here is something I purchased many years ago, and I did not like it for watercolor. It was too thin. It's a 90-pound watercolor paper. It worked really well with Gelli plates and taking layers of paint. And then I have this brand new to me rice paper type paper that we're going to be experimenting with today. So yes, just putting that right back behind me for a minute. Actually, maybe that wasn't smart. I just realized probably open it. Okay, let's grab some paper. Oh, it's super thin. Yes. Okay. So during my explorations, when I was doing my testing, I found that not only did I like that really thin watercolor paper, but tracing paper was really interesting, but it wasn't opaque enough for me. So this is going to be fun. I'm going to put it over here. Put the paper back behind me. And let's do a first color. Let's lay down a color and make something. Okay. So what's really cool about Gelli Plates, I find, is that when you use things on it, they can create texture themselves. Like I used dried flowers on here and they were kind of sticking to it, and I have dog hair and like things that just create interesting lines and textures already. So then it creates this really cool appearance on the paper. Okay, gonna lay it out flat, as flat as I can. Oh, this paper's really thin. Kind of gross. Feel like I should have worn gloves, but we'll see. Oh, but look at that. Okay. So that looks really cool. I want to lay it down for a second so it can dry a bit. And while that's happening, I am going to clean So you'll find that when it comes to using a Gelli plate, that you might be cleaning in between every layer depending on the look that you want to go with. Maybe you don't mind mixing colors and having cross-contamination, or you just really like how that looks. It's kind of like when you do multiple layers on a painting, you want to see what's underneath it or what you can get. So it's going to be all up to you and your own personal style. One thing I do recommend when just doing things like this, where you're experimenting with new tools or learning a new paint brand, when you're doing your explorations, is to put on your headphones and shut out the noise of anything around you. Just get really immersed into exploring. So right now for me, I have my headphones on and I'm listening to a playlist on Shopify, Spotify. And it's the one where it's like songs to sing in the shower. And John Legend is on right now. So John Legend? Yes, because John Lennon's someone else. Anyway, the guy from, you know who I'm talking about. Anyways. And it's like such a sad, serious song. Okay. I want to use these flowers for our next experiment. So I'm going to, cut them off. Ooh. Maybe this too. And the color I want to lay with this one, ooh, dried nicely and fast, is let's use the one we mixed earlier on. I just noticed an error in my thought plan. So if I'm going to roll out my paints and then scoosh this down as best as I can, it's gonna leave paints there. Okay. Cool. I'm feeling it. Okay, never mind. Let's just go with it. Place that there, this here. The trick is being fast because, you know, oops, I just ripped that flower apart, so now I have petals everywhere. That's okay. That might be interesting. Is that acrylic paints can dry really quickly depending on the type of environment that you're in. So you want to work as fast as you can. Then you want to just kind of like flatten everything as best as you can. And try to get as much as that paint on here. And if you want to, you can use something heavy to flatten it, or maybe roll depending on what you have. Look how cool it is. This paper's a little thin. I poked a hole through it right here. But look how cool. Okay. And now you don't want this to go to waste. So you're gonna wanna like pull your stuff off as quickly as you can. See these cool textures that are there? I want to put that on another piece of paper. Ooh. Trying to work as fast as I can. Maybe I should be using both hands. Okay. If I could stop and take a photo of it, I would. It dried really fast for some of the spots, but some spots not so much. See how cool that is? I think I want to switch over to another color for my next layer. So I'm going to clean this and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've cleaned this. So I'm going to do another layer for this one here. And what I'm thinking of doing is experimenting with my favorite, which is this muted violet from Liquitex. It's an acrylic ink. Hopefully. So now it's going to lay down like this. So I want to kind of spritz it a little. See how I'm getting like some interesting color. I think I want to just like dab it a little. Throw that aside. And lay it down. And then peel it back. Oh, that might dry and be really cool. So this is feeling really wet, so I want to lie it down flat. All right, so now I'm going to use the watercolor paper that I like. See how it's so, goes on so nicely? Okay, just gonna put that down. I just wanted to say, how beautiful is this flower? I am going to lay out, my hands are so dirty. I'm gonna lay them all out and create a bouquet of sorts. So what I want to do is first just make sure I have everything out that I want. So I'm gonna like, I think, cut this bit off. It'll be kind of like here and, okay. Okay, I know what I'm doing. Let's lay out some paint. So I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna put a little extra paint because I'm going to take a few moments to actually roll it out. So maybe having a little extra paint on here will allow the paint to stay wet longer. Okay. So here. Here. Ow, I just stabbed myself with this one. There. There. And then I have some greenery I haven't used yet. Just gonna rip it off. Try to lay some of it out. Put some of these here. This here. Oh yeah, this is one that's falling apart. That there. Hopefully I got enough. I did. How cool is that? This is probably drying now and I'm dooming us all, but it's so pretty. I had to take a photo and okay, let's peel it all off. So pretty. gonna lay it on top of this one. Or should I lay it on top? No, I'm doing this one. Alrighty, let's peel it off and see what it looks like. Dry, see if it's still wet. Oh, it's still. Okay. And because it's still wet, I'm going to do it again. Fact, just gonna roll it. Uh-oh. It's really stuck on here. Well, I made a hole, but that's okay. I mean, I might use this for, it was still wet. I knew it was still wet when I laid it down because I could feel how damp it was for how heavy the ink was, but it's still beautiful texture. Love it. Alrighty, so we have reached the conclusion of today's video where we're exploring and creating using Gelli plates. And I just wanted to share my final thoughts with you. Now, I've spent the weekend playing with this new paper, so I am technically future Leah from the previous clip you just saw. And I must say that when this rice paper is freshly used, you need to give it a good amount of time to dry in between layers. So you need to work on multiple things at a time so you can rotate between them in order to use this paper, because if you don't, as you saw with me doing this one, I ripped a hole through it because it was wet and it stuck to the Gelli plate and it made a hole. Now that it's all dried and everything, it's actually really good paper. I have a feeling like this will glue down really well for my mixed media work, for scrapbooking and things like that. The only thing is, in the process, if you only want to do a couple of sheets at a time, this isn't the paper for that. It's for if you're going to spend hours and rotate through multiple sheets. If you wanted to do just one or two at a time in your day, I would say getting a really thin watercolor paper or even a sketch page. So this morning I was experimenting with some of the flowers now that they're kind of drying. And this here is just sketchbook paper. So it's thinner than this watercolor paper here. And it took the paint and the layers really well. So this has 3 thick layers of paint on it. And it handled the Gelli plate and the paints and everything really well. So that's my only suggestion, is if you do go with really thin paper like this rice paper, use multiple at a time to give it good drying time, or do your layers in multiple days. Also, super fan of this, right? So having the scrap paper to the side so you can roll out your paint, because really I'm going to use this. I know I am. I'm going to use it for doing my mixed media, layering, scrapbooking. Like, I can see endless possibilities for me using this, especially because these colors all have a good theme to them, so it can be used when I'm using those colors again. And my last little thing that I want to mention is, so I got really into how my Gelli plate looked with the dried flowers on it a couple of times, so I stopped to take photos. But in the process of doing that, the paint in my environment dries quickly because it's a thin layer of acrylic paint. So I had a beautiful textured layout. I'm going to actually put it on the screen right now. And it's beautiful. I wanted to put it onto paper, but it was already dried and I couldn't transfer it to paper. So basically, you just got to work quickly and you are good to go. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. If you're interested in using art as a tool towards healing and learning more about different ways that you can use art and the different types of paints, especially acrylics and mixed medium materials, hit that subscribe button because that's what I'm all about here. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and until next time, stay magical.